It is November 29th. Welcome back to another episode of BRAP. And we're back from the holidays. I hope everyone had, at least here in the United States, had a great Thanksgiving holiday. I have my own personal issues with Thanksgiving, but I won't talk about that because that goes back into, well, that would dive into U.S. history. But that's another conversation. But we have a great show tonight and have a lot to talk about. Have breaking news as it relates to commentary by the CFO of the Xbox division, Tim Stewart, who was discussing Microsoft's strategy for Xbox, their vision of bringing games on anywhere you can play video games, basically. Any screen, any device. This is their vision, and I've been discussing this, and I'm going to try to play some audio. I don't know if I'm going to. I was trying to incorporate it into the stream via OBS, and I wasn't able to get that set up. So I'm going to try another way to play the audio clip, because the audio clip's really telling. I've had some conversation with some folks on Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it about my commentary that, to me, this sounds like they're going third party. And we'll discuss that later on the show. We also have maybe some Nintendo Switch news potentially to discuss. And we also have PlayStation making agreements or signing a major agreement or partnership with a developer publisher in Korea as well, and some other gaming-related news. But I do want to introduce returning guests. We have with us author, actor, and I hope I'm not forgetting anything else here. We have Ramon Terrell with us. What's up? What's going on, Ramon?
Hey, what's going on? And no, you didn't forget anything. I appreciate it. Glad to be back, as always. Got some really hot topics that popped up today, and just looking forward to getting into it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. There's a lot to talk about. And one of the reasons I wanted to have you on, excuse me, I have to apologize. I'm recovering. I've been sick. I was sick for about 5 to 6 days, I think. I got sick over the Thanksgiving holiday here. But you, sir, have ascended your gaming experience to the best gaming platform. So when people say to me, "Brap, oh, you're a pony, you're a PlayStation fanboy," it makes me laugh because I don't really use my PlayStation a lot. My PlayStation is primarily there for Sony first party, and on occasion I'll buy some third party stuff on the PlayStation. But my primary gaming platform is PC, because if you listen to the show, and by the way, please do me a favor. I forgot to do this one thing before we went live, or when we went live. I forgot to give a big shout out to everyone here in the live chat. Thank you, everyone, for coming by, hanging out with us this evening. I really appreciate it. Do me a favor, hit that like button if you haven't done so already. Helps out the show. And if you're new, consider subscribing and hitting the bell notification so you are alerted when we go live. Now, if you're new to the show, I will tell you one of the things that we do in the show, we try to have we tend to have a different level of conversation as opposed to some other platform-centric podcasts that like to spread misinformation, disinformation. We tend to have a more nuanced, more thoughtful conversation here on this show. So if you're looking for a more nuanced, thoughtful conversation, then you've come to the right place. If you're looking for something different, if you're looking to have conversation that you might find at a local sports bar, this isn't the place for you. I'm just throwing that out there so everyone knows if you're new. But yeah. So Ramon, so you have ascended, as I said, to what I've always and what I've been saying for the last couple of years, and one of the reasons why I got rid of my Xbox Series X is PC. PC is the best platform to play video games. It's not even debatable at this point that PC is the best place to play video games. So Ramon, I want to hear about your PC experience because you actually just built your own rig, and by the way, great build, by the way. And I was really excited for you as you were building it, and I was like, I can't wait to talk to him on the show about his experience, because one of the things I think I may have said to you that I enjoy about PC is that it allows you a lot of flexibility that you don't get on console. So what's your experience been like so far with this PC build?
Man, so jumping back, like it was rough buying component by component, trying to stay patient, wait for sales and stuff like that. But then once I got everything together, and as I was putting it together, like that part, even though there were some hiccups because the instruction manuals are kind of weird, but assembling the rig was actually a ton of fun. I had a lot of fun, like just, having all the parts spread out and then putting everything together. And then, when you hold your breath and grit your teeth and you press the power button and it actually comes on, and then you're like, man, I built this thing and it actually works. So that was, you only get that kind of feeling once, and it was a lot of fun. Um, I would say the most difficult part was learning all the things that I didn't know. Like, for instance, I was trying to, get the internet, and they're like, "Oh, you need to update your drivers," and I'm like, "What the hell's a driver?" You know what I mean? So it's like, you know, a lot of things that it was a lot to learn, and I'm still learning a lot. But in the end, it was worth it because the first game I played on it, which I'm still playing, is Starfield, and the update wasn't there for DLSS at the time, but it is now. But when I turned it on, and then I went to settings, and then I went to display, and then that drop down came, and I'm just looking at all of these options, like, you know how do I want the foliage, the grass, the shadows, the illumination, blah blah blah, and I'm just like, just blowing my mind looking at all this, and then being able to pull up the software to check your frame rate and all your temperatures and everything. You're like, okay, this is the frame rate that I want, and these are the settings that I have to get it, and then okay, you're off to the races. And like, yeah, it's been pretty amazing, and I'm using mine a little bit different than a lot of other PC gamers. I basically call it a super console because it sits where my Series X used to sit, and it's like right in my TV stand and everything. It's hooked up to the home theater system and the TV. So I just, I have it set up just like it would be a console, and it's pretty freaking amazing.
Yeah. Now, what kind of TV do you have? If you don't mind me asking.
I have, oh no, not at all. I have a Samsung S90, or Samsung S90C, I think it is, or something like that. Basically, it's one of the brand new OLEDs that Samsung has.
Ooh, yeah.
And shout out to D-Batch. The reason why I even knew about it was because D-Batch posted on his Twitter, and he posted some photos, and he
It's a
was
good
talking about
TV.
how it blew his OLED, his LG away. Yeah, I would say the Samsung that I have, and then the LG, I think it's G3, are kind of neck and neck. The Samsung ones, they kind of took a little bit of a note from their QLED line, in that it works really well in lit rooms, so you don't get as much of the glare as a
You know,
normal
yeah.
OLED would.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's really good in lit rooms, but it's also still really good in dark rooms. That's where OLEDs shine, is in dark rooms.
Hmm.
And man, when I tell you, like, it's freaking amazing. It's amazing. And what I'm most excited about is, so Starfield, like, I mean, it's a decent looking game, but it looks fantastic, and Starfield isn't exactly the most visually impressive game. So I'm excited to fire up, like, Cyberpunk. I got Hogwarts. Those are the two that well, I don't have Cyberpunk yet, but I have Hogwarts, and I'll be getting to that probably early next year. But yeah, just like the visuals, man, is just freaking incredible, and just, yeah,
Yeah,
it's
and
on a whole, it's a different level.
yeah, and by the way, that Samsung TV is actually on sale right now. The 65-inch version of that is $1,000 off right now on Samsung.com. The
Oh wow.
S90C. And I see. I'm looking at the specs here. It does come with the Samsung Gaming Hub, which has Xbox Game Pass. Which
Yep.
now does it also have? Does it support G-Sync and AMD
Yes,
FreeSync as well? It does. Okay.
it has well, let me think for a second. I know that it supports I think it supports FreeSync. G-Sync, I'm not sure. It has auto low latency. It
Mm.
has a thing called game mode. All Samsung TVs have what's called a game mode, and it automatically like it optimizes everything. It gives you the highest refresh rate. Like for instance, and I didn't realize this until I almost had a heart attack because I had the regular TV on because I was waiting for my PlayStation to turn on at the time because I hadn't had my PC assembled yet, and when I was looking in the settings, it said like, VRS not enabled and it was like 60 hertz. And I'm like, what the hell? And then as soon as my PlayStation and the TV talked to each other, game mode came on and then it said max 144 hertz, 4K, and
Oh, that's right. Your
VRR, all
TV
of
will do
that.
144. Mine only does 120. I have the LG C1. Mine does 120.
Oh,
So
okay, yeah.
yours is going to do 144, which is awesome.
Man, yeah, like I mean, most monitors, PC monitors, most people go for 144. I know they go up to 240, I think, but most people, I think, go for 144. So to actually have a 77-inch TV that can do 144 hertz is
Wait.
just
I'm sorry.
like,
How big's that TV again?
oh, 77.
Oh man, you were not playing around. Remote. I with that rig and that Oh man. Hey, like all you got to do now is put some LEDs behind the TV. That's what I did with my TV. I bought the LED strips and I just put them on the back of the TV.
Oh yeah, I've seen
So
that. Yeah.
so when I'm playing, I've always said this. My PC. So my PC replaced. I think like much like your situation. My PC replaced my Series X because
Yeah.
once I figured out Microsoft wasn't going to really create games that took advantage, at least they haven't done so. Maybe that changes next year or a year, the year after. I don't know. But once when I realized that they weren't or they hadn't created any games that really took advantage of the Xbox Series X hardware, despite all the pre-launch marketing about the Series X, it being the most powerful console and eating monsters for breakfast and all that other stuff. I said, you know what? I'm just going to go PC because PC I can have more flexibility, control. Like I play Halo Infinite, and if I'm playing on my PC monitor, I'm playing at 144 frames. If I'm I'm playing it at high settings. If I'm on my OLED, I'm playing at 120 at high settings. So I have control of that,
Yeah.
and so when with what I did is with my now I don't remember. Does your PC do you have like the RGBs like your fans? They have RGBs.
Yeah, it came because I got the NZXT the 2023 version, and the front fans have RGB, and that's
Okay.
actually enough. And I actually need to play with my settings so that I can turn it off when I'm playing in a dark room because then it's kind of distracting. So I like it, but I need to turn it off to where it's just black when I'm playing because otherwise, if I'm playing in a dark room, like it's just shining right from the side, so it kind of is a little bit of a distraction.
Yeah,
But
gotcha. Okay.
it's pretty cool though. And I like that it actually came with it.
Yeah, no, it's so I keep my RGBs in my PC. I turn green, and the LED strips in the back of my OLED. See, when I have a 65-inch OLED, and I set those to green, and I'm like, this is the
Oh
real
yeah.
Xbox. That's what I refer to as the
Yeah.
real. This is my real Xbox.
Yeah, I mean it's if yeah, I mean yeah, that's pretty much what when the the funny thing is The Series X is the reason why I have a PC because I'd been talking to some friends. I've been talking to some friends at work, and he was like, "No, man, it's not as difficult as way back in the day. It's a lot easier now." Blah blah blah, and I'm just like, "Yeah,
Yeah, it's definitely much
I don't
easier
want
now.
to." Yeah, it is, but I was like, I don't want to spend the money. Blah blah blah, and then and I was like, you know what? I'm cool because the consoles, plural at the time, the consoles can do 4K 30, or in the case of the PlayStation, more often than not, the first party have settings where you can do 4K 40, and so forth, or I can get my 60 frames, in some cases 120. I'm good, and then the last straw for me, and this is no shade on Bethesda, it's no shade on Xbox, it just is what it is. But the last straw was when I saw that Starfield was coming out at 30 frames. And anyone who knows me knows that I was rooting hard for Xbox to really bring it because I wanted to see some strong competition between the two. But when it came at 30 frames, I was like, okay, well, maybe, the scope of the game, because this is big, wide, a million planets, blah, 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 blah. And then when we see how the game is set up, and, it's not quite as, vast off the jump like you think it is. It's a lot of loading. I was just like, okay, that was kind of like the last straw. And, you know, I the Series X paid for my GPU, and then, the rest is just kind of history.
Yeah, I mean, I've been saying this more recently to people on X or Twitter, whatever we call it today, that the definitive experience, Xbox experience, is on PC. Best way to experience the Xbox ecosystem is PC. Starfield being one of the recent examples of that, where
Oh yeah.
when they announced it, I was like, I'm going to play it on PC. I mean, I got to play the game at times. I mean, there were times where I was hitting 90 frames per second.
Oh man, yeah.
And no, I also had, I was using FSR, which isn't as good as, which I don't think is as good
Oh,
as
that the DLSS, yeah.
yeah, GLSS, yeah, which now I believe
Oh, it's there. It's
it's
there.
there now, yeah.
Man, you just don't know.
Yeah.
I tried it out. I tried it out a couple days ago, and I've been
Mhm.
playing it for the past 3 days. And I have everything maxed out. I have the resolution at 80%, and I get about what is it? I think 70 to 80 frames. I can't remember, either 60 to 70 frames or 70 to 80 frames. I want to say between 70 to 80 frames, and I have everything maxed out with 80% resolution slider. And it's just with DLSS on. And oh, the reason why is because I turned on frame generation, and that like just makes all the difference. I use my Starfield Xbox controller. I don't notice any latency at all, and I'm using it via Bluetooth, and I'm not feeling any latency. It's great, man. It's freaking great.
Yeah, it really is. And like I said, man, it is the best way to experience Xbox. Like, don't even waste your money on the console. Like I tell people that don't like if you have the means to do it, go PC, subscribe to Game Pass on PC, and just enjoy the flexibility, playing games at higher frames, higher graphic fidelity. It's just a better experience to me. For me, it is.
You know what? And even if, I mean, and not everybody, has the means, to build a really powerful PC, but GeForce Now. I mean,
Mm.
GeForce Now, it's, a lot of people, especially Xbox gamers, are really, up on the, subscription services. You subscribe to GeForce, they're putting their games on GeForce. They want their games everywhere anyway. You sub to GeForce, and I mean, you can get it the equivalent of a 4080, which is insane. And everything I've been hearing is that it kicks ass. So I mean, even if you can't build a super powerful rig, man, just you sub to GeForce Now and you have the next best thing.
Yeah, and actually, Slomo was playing. I forget what Slomo was actually advocating for. For the GeForce Now cloud streaming platform. I think he was playing Cyberpunk, I want to say that he said it was
I think it was
playing
Cyberpunk.
that actually performed pretty well for the most part.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I want to welcome Game Logic to the show real quick. Game Logic, I'm sorry, I just saw that you were in the BRAP show. Hopefully you weren't waiting here too long for a proper introduction, sir. But how are you tonight?
All right, I'm good. How are you?
Doing well. Just Ramon has ascended to PC gaming, so we were talking about that and just getting his experience. I think this is your first PC build, right, Ramon?
Yeah, first one.
Yeah. So he is ascended as I said earlier. Yeah. It's just great. I love it. I mean, I don't see myself going back. Like if Sony ever decided to release their first party games day and date, I would only be on PC.
Same thing, and I think that would be personally. I think that would be to their detriment, which is I think why they are other than multi-platform or a multiplayer. I don't think I think that's why they're kind of like, yeah, we'll do multiplayer, but we're keeping our single party close to the vest. And I mean, I don't know the industry inside and out, but I think they know that PC is just a little bit too easy, and the equivalent. So the PS5 is the equivalent, if I'm not mistaken, to a 2070 Super, I think it is. And a 2070 Super, you can build a 2080. It'll still cost more than PS5, but you could build a 2080, which is quite a bit more powerful than a PS5 for a decent amount of money. So, yeah, if they ever made their games day one, yeah, I think they'd take a hardware hit. I know PC gamers are different than console players, but I feel like if they made a move like that, we'd see just how many console gamers would stay hardcore on console. Not everybody will, but I think more people than, maybe we think.
Yeah.
Actually, I know that's a I don't want to say common take, but I think that's a popular belief. I don't like. I don't think I would do that, and I will readily admit I have said in the past that I would, but I wouldn't. Just because gaming on PC is not that is not a labor-free activity.
That is true.
I mean,
I've experienced that firsthand.
I spent a ton of time.
I got a comment on that, but go ahead.
I spent a ton of time, professionally, in systems engineering, reliability, and I always have this. I've talked, on my show about this. I always have this kind of ticker in my head about system availability, right? Because it's something that I constantly have to calculate, like in my real life, and the system availability of a gaming PC is not 100%. It's not even. I'm not sure. Maybe it's 5 nines. Right, but it's arguably something less than that. And the way most people approach PC gaming, like I mean, I'll prove my point right here. And I apologize that I have to use you guys as my fall guys, but are both of your PCs on uninterruptible power supplies?
And when you say uninterruptible power supplies, do you mean like if there's a power surge?
Yep.
Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. No, mine's not.
No, mine isn't either.
Okay. So, and I'm wagering that neither of you have software installed on your PCs where you take a snapshot of a monthly image to back up your PC so that in the event your operating system fails, you can restore it to a previous state. And I'm not talking about the installed Windows capability, but I'm actually talking about taking a full-blown image of your operating system hard drive.
I'll answer that by saying, let's talk later.
Okay, so my point is I don't know that I would catch, right? Because I have nights that I come home and that I plan on gaming, right, and something goes sideways. So particularly in this world now where I have my Steam Decks and other things, having that as a and I play on the Steam Deck and on mobile as well, and maybe even somewhat on the Switch, but just handheld gaming in general. One of the things that I'm doing is I'm participating in that a little bit more, just so I have nights where I come home and I don't have to turn on a beast of 12 fans, right, to get gaming done. But also not just saving those operating hours on my PC, but just again to have some cycles, right, in my gaming time where the likelihood of something going sideways, right, is less, which should overall increase my gaming time. So I know a lot of people will claim that, but again, with the number of live streamers that I constantly see and constantly involved in conversations with, because they chose not to pay attention to what I said and put their gaming PC on a UPS and take periodic images. I constantly see these things on Twitter about oh, my PC has gone, has something as bad as happened, and now I'm down on live streaming for like a month. And I'm like, well, yeah, I mean, you put your livelihood out there dependent on this piece of gear, and then you didn't do the things you needed to do as your own self-sysadmin, right, to take care of it. So, BRAP, you were going to say something, sorry.
Yeah, I game on my PC. I don't have those problems, so I just think you're concern trolling. So that's just want to throw that out there. I should also note that Logic has like a server farm in like his basement. Like he's basically powered the internet from his house if he wanted to.
That's true, and I do have redundancy, but I don't expect that every PC gamer is going to do that. Yes, I have my nights of that. If I come home and something goes sideways on one PC, I just shift to the other.
Yeah.
But I do that because I run different sets of gear in different configurations, so I can actually be knowledgeable when I comment on that stuff.
Yeah, and I'm not saying, and I'm joking, by the way, with just so anyone listening, I'm joking with Logic here. But no, I mean, I'm not. I hope no one thought that I was saying that it's flawless per se. I mean, I've been lucky. I haven't had a lot of issues, but I did have to reinstall my operating system on my previous PC build. And I mean, it wasn't hard to do, but it was a thing to do. It was time that took away from my enjoyment of playing video games. And that's probably the worst issue that I've had with PC gaming. But outside of that, at least with this build, I haven't had those issues where, I had to reinstall my OS or anything like that. Or, I may have had some issues like with audio or sometimes like games have crashed. Like I was having a problem with Halo Infinite. It would crash on if I launched it through the Xbox launcher for some reason, but then would work fine on Steam. So, those kinds of issues will come up from time to time.
Well, I actually have a story just from yesterday. So, excuse me. So, Neo GameSpark actually he shared a tweet of a guy who was playing Skyrim with this crazy graphics mod. Like, I mean, it made it look like close to current gen graphics, and it had a excuse me. I actually had 2 days of what you had, Brap. It had it also had an enhanced combat, so it didn't look like you were slicing bread with the sword instead of actually fighting. So like,
you say slicing bread with the sword? Oh my god!
Yeah, man. If you ever go into first person in Skyrim and you swing that sword, it looks like you're slicing bread and spreading butter. It looks so bad. So I mean, the combat
that is staple Bethesda first person combat.
Oh,
it's called the clubbing effect.
The club. I swear, swinging a sword like that, the only reason they die is because they laugh at you. But so I went to the mod website, and then I had planned on gaming. I had planned on downloading this, buying the game, downloading the mod, and be up and running maybe in like an hour and a half. Man, I spent over, I don't know, 3 hours in the Discord with the creators of the mod trying to figure out why it kept saying that the game wasn't installed. And we still didn't get it figured out. So once I was getting close to the 3 hour mark, I was like, all right, I need a break. This is getting stupid. So I left that, and then I went back into Starfield and just played like an hour and a half in Starfield before I had to wrap it up. So yeah, there definitely is the the difficulty side of PC, in that sometimes you just can't figure out how to get something working, and it can take a while, and it can be frustrating, and it can get annoying, especially when you're new. So for me, like trying to figure out how to make get that mod working. Like, I know it'll be worth it once it's done, but yeah, that was a source of frustration. So I mean, yeah, there definitely is. There's a trade-off for everything.
Yeah, I don't want people to get it twisted. I saw somebody in the chat say, like, just kind of the sum of what I'm saying, right? And it shouldn't be extrapolated too far beyond that, right? PC is optimum, or optimal, or preferred, but a PlayStation or a console is more convenient, right? And we've talked about this on E2KG. Like, I personally love. People always say, I don't want to play on PC because I don't want to sit at a desk. Like I said, like whatever. Like, I don't have any problem sitting at a desk. I like gaming sitting at a desk. I love being on PC where I can utilize, my flight control systems and my wheel and pedals, or whatever controller, or I have control over what my experience is. All I'm saying is that, but I also love coming home, sitting on my couch, sitting at my desk, lowering my chair on the floor, grabbing a controller and just being up and running and gaming, right, in 2 minutes, right, without having to, get this patch or download this set of drivers or whatever. But the other thing that I would say that people who are negative about PC gaming constantly get wrong and get twisted is there's like, oh, you have to download drivers, you have to do maintenance, you have to do LOL. I'm like, but you need to understand, if somebody, like, I don't just game on PC, I build gaming PCs. And as BRAP said, I built several gaming PCs at a time. You should make the rather easy leap of logic that I do that because I enjoy it, right? So just like somebody goes out in the olden days, and tinkers on cars or builds a motorcycle or whatever, yes, I tell, sad sea stories of, when something goes wrong, kind of like Ramon was just saying, but you also need to understand that troubleshooting that and fixing it and figuring out is part of what the people who do that find fun. And it's not always convenient, but, at the end of the day, when you look back on those experiences and all the things that you've learned and all the things that you've done, and, for some of us, it has a profound, impact on your whole approach, to life, I spend a lot of time troubleshooting in my professional field. So, those things have been enjoyable, right? They're not, like I said, they're not always convenient. They don't always happen at the best time, right? Which is why I started building more than one gaming PC. But, but I build because I love building PCs. I engage in a hobby and an activity that forces me to troubleshoot, and, like I said, be my own self-sysadmin, because there's a level of enjoyment that I get out of that. And consoles are great. They're convenient. I get it. Somebody made some comment on one of our shows before about, oh, you guys never talk about the games and you talk about lights. I mean, so first of all, it's truth in numbers. We get on this podcast and talk about games for an hour and a half, 2 hours, 3 hours every week. Slomo and I spent 10 minutes talking about lights in a build. Like, so let's not be overly about it. But my other point is that, again, these are the things, that we enjoy, and there are additional, benefits, right, that we get out of it.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Oh, sorry. No, to kind of jump back to the whole desk thing. I agree. I don't, personally, I don't want to sit at a desk when I'm gaming, which is why I have a wireless keyboard that has I think it's like a 14-foot, I think, range or something like that. And I have a mouse that has the same range, and I'm sitting on my couch. And when I'm logging onto my PC, I use my keyboard for that. And I literally have my mouse sitting on because the couch is a fabric. So I have my mouse sitting on the couch, not even a mouse pad, and it works perfectly fine. And then when I type in my password to boot up my PC, after my PC boots up, I go in, double click on the game I'm playing. It comes up. I turn my controller on. It syncs with my PC, and I'm playing. And I'm sitting on the couch, so you don't have to sit on the desk, or at a desk, I should say.
Yeah, and the last thing I'll add is, and I get, like I said, that console gaming is more convenient, but, to the person who, again, made the snide comment about, oh, like, you guys talk about lights, I'm like, okay, but you also go out and spend $500 to buy the exact same piece of plastic that 49,999,000 other people just went and bought, with almost zero difference, unless you put stickers on the side of it, right? I mean, yes, now you can go off and buy panels and sides, but, like, you're not, like, it's not a bespoke thing, right? That you bought. You bought out, and like I said, last month or so, you went out and you bought an appliance, right? Which yes, gives you some enjoyment, but quite frankly, it's not that much far different from you going out and buying a microwave or a refrigerator or a washing machine.
And I will say this, consoles, and this is why I hope the console market just never goes away, is because the partner, like with Mark Cerny's deep dive that everyone fell asleep on, but I didn't understand even a quarter of everything that he was saying, but I still found it fascinating. But when he was talking about the SSD, and he was saying that they partnered with who they partner with again? I can't remember, but basically whoever they partnered with, and they made the SSD, and he's like, if our effort was successful, then you'll see that come to mass market. And that collaboration brought the NVMe SSDs, the super fast SSDs that we have now. And apparently they have one that's even faster than the PS5 one. But it's like little things like that. And like for a $500 box, like those consoles work freaking miracles. And I mean, I know the ray tracing on consoles more like pray tracing, PRAY, pray tracing. That's what I call it. But the fact that you can spend $500 on a box and then get anything near that is a wonder. It's basically, I like to think of it as, a souped up Toyota Supra that, can do like a 10-second or a 9-second quarter mile. I mean, yeah, it's not a McLaren, but it's still super fast. And then, you at one point, maybe you want to jump up to the McLaren, and it's glorious.
Exactly. I like that McLaren.
And usually, kind of like you said, usually we see, technologies appear first on PC and then trickle down to consoles. But this generation, at least as far as I can remember, I think, we've really seen that work in reverse for the first time. And there have been some adjacencies to that. You could make the argument that the technology and the Kinect, eventually trickle over to PC, but I don't particularly think that was very impactful. But in terms of impactful things, we saw, and things like the velocity architecture and direct storage implemented first on Xbox. And it was blended in, and it's part of DirectX, and it eventually, made its way over to PC. How impactful that will be down the road. And AMD was working on a similar technology and kind of had it implemented. Again, what your benefits were out of that, is I think we're very much in the margins as far as what games were programmed that took advantage of it. But that's where if you have an AMD CPU, obviously an AMD motherboard, and an AMD GPU, that there are advantages in how those things are tuned and work together in some architectural implementations that allow them some additional performance. But direct storage is a thing that all games, right, can take advantage of on PC. So yeah, again, consoles are becoming, to me, just child members of the same ecosystem that are very effective and provide a great gaming platform. So I agree with you. I hope they don't go away. It's a good kind of symbiotic and synergistic relationship between PCs and consoles right now, and hopefully it'll improve.
Yeah,
that's a great point. Yeah. Let me grab the super chat, gentlemen. Monkey Power with the $5 super chat says, "I'm an Xbox fan, but Xbox going third party doesn't seem so bad. One console to play all games seems like a dream. We'd love to play Halo on PlayStation." Thank you for that super chat. We'll get it to Tim Stewart, the CFO of Xbox, Tim Stewart's comments on the show here later today. But speaking of Bethesda, this news story just came up. I believe was it yesterday? Let me check the date here. This was yesterday, where it was kind of this thing kind of picked up steam. No pun intended. But this thing kind of picked up steam, the story did, with user reviews, Steam user reviewers, and the Bethesda developers actually responding to some of these Steam user reviews. And I went back, I did a little research, and this was actually something that was going on, that was being discussed in the Steam forums back in September, actually, late September is when I first started seeing some of the comments in the Steam forums about Bethesda coming in and commenting on some of the user reviews, telling some of the user reviews that they were wrong, they weren't playing the game correctly, or they didn't necessarily understand the design of the game, why some planets were meant to be empty. But I don't recall Logic, and maybe you do, or maybe you recall this, Ramon, but I don't recall seeing like AAA developers. I know developers will comment, but I've never seen the kind of commentary by developer that I saw that I'm seeing here with Bethesda. Like I'm reading one of the comments here. One of the reviewers said, "Boring and overrated." There is a wide universe to explore, filled mostly with empty planets. I understand they have to do that to sell you on the idea that there's a whole universe, but that doesn't make the game more fun. You can land on any planet, explore the copy-pasted locations. You will see. Okay, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but one of the but here's the response from Bethesda. Thank you for taking the time to leave a review for Starfield. We're sorry that you do not like landing on different planets and are finding many of them empty. Some of Starfield's planets are meant to be empty by design, but that's not boring. When the astronauts went to the moon, there was nothing there. I actually do like this response a bit, because the user review is kind of like, but the response is funny. But I don't recall. Actually, let me finish reading the review. They certainly weren't bored. The intention of Starfield's exploration is to evoke a feeling of smallness in players, make you feel overwhelmed. You continue to explore the fine worlds that do have resources you need or hidden outposts to look through. So that's only one of the comments that I saw highlighted in the coverage of the story here. And actually, I'm reading this from Gamer Rant. I'll have to pull up some other ones.
BRAP, I'm sorry. Yeah. I'm sorry to interrupt you. Josh Aries in the chat, he says, "Were the astronauts sitting on the couch to be entertained?"
That's pretty funny.
Oh, that's gold.
That is gold. Yeah. Yeah, that's not exactly like, like I would, like the astronauts weren't bored because they weren't sitting on their couch. It's not the same, no.
Exactly. No, they were actually in freaking space. Like, come on, I can't believe they even tried that.
Yeah. One of the other Bethesda response was, "Greetings. Thank you for taking the time to leave a review for Starfield. You can fly, you can shoot, you can mine, you can loot. Starfield is an RPG with hundreds of hours of quests to complete, characters to meet. Most quests will also vary on your character's skills and decisions, massively changing the outcome of your playthrough. Try creating different characters with backgrounds and characteristics that clash or are a positive to of your previous character. You will feel like you're playing a totally different game. Put points in different skills from a character you've previously created. You're now faced with completely different decisions to make and difficulties to encounter. There's so many layers of Starfield that you find things you'll never knew it's possible after playing for hundreds of hours." So I don't recall, and Ramon and Logic, let me know if you guys have seen developers respond this way, but I can't recall developers responding to user reviews this way, especially on Steam. And usually it's like, they'll respond, "Hey, we're sorry, you're not enjoying the game," or "We're sorry for any issues," something like that. But they're actually going in and telling people how to play the game, or insinuating that maybe these people, maybe they aren't playing the game correctly.
Well, I don't recall. Well, I'm new to Steam, so I can't really speak on that. But reviews in general, I don't think I've ever seen that. And also, this really looks like one of those instances of, if you have to explain yourself, you've already lost.
I often say that to my kids. Yeah, some of the live chat said, "It sounds like an AI response." Yeah, Logic. Have you seen? Because you've been on Steam probably longer than I have. Have you seen this before?
I don't recall seeing this before. I'm on Steam right now, kind of looking at how they present this on the web page, and I mean, it's definitely a thing that may have been there that I would have missed, because what it is it's the person's review, and then there's a hyperlink kind of in like at the very bottom, like kind of a bumper sticker at the end of the review that says a developer has responded on, on whatever date. So maybe that's been there, in times in the past, and I just, didn't pay attention to it. I mean, my feeling is, and I commented, I've been commenting on this, and I'm sure people are tired of hearing my tirade about, like, I just feel like Microsoft, like Xbox PR has just really lost the mission. And marketing, right? Going all the way back to 2022 and that voice track, and going into the showcases and how that was handled, and I just, it doesn't, the way they are theming and orienting their voice to their customer is just not something that particularly strikes well with me. When I'm looking at these responses, these number one, they feel like they are community managers and representatives, and not necessarily developers. So that's one problem that I have. And again, that's part of that is probably a Steam limitation where it says a developer has responded to this, because I'm sorry, I'm not with this philosophy that, like, everyone who works on a game is a developer. No, they're not. There are people who are hands-on keyboard, and those are the people I refer to as developers. They command a higher salary, and they're just, objectively a different type of resource than somebody who has a marketing degree and is doing this stuff. There's also the potential, just because of the way. So, we talked a lot about PC gaming, and I do spend a lot of time, crawling, running into problems, crawling around, looking for answers to troubleshooting, and I hit links that are in the Microsoft forums. And one of the problems with the responses in the Microsoft forums for support is, you can always tell when it is a, how do I want to phrase this? I'll say, a non-technical, right? They, their response is the script, right, which is entirely front-loaded with, like, the things that you see here. We're so glad that you took the time to, like, report an issue or to bring up a topic or whatever, and then it gives you kind of like, the standard troubleshooting approaches that you get from the person on the telephone in the call center when you have a problem with your cable, right? And BRAP, you and I have talked about this, and I, on those phone calls, I very quickly cut to the chase and say, look, I've spent a lot of my time being a professional network engineer. We like all these things that you're telling me I've already done, and we're not going to go through this, right? Let's skip to the end, and I give them the laundry list of everything that I've done to troubleshoot, right? So I don't know that these are actual members of the development team doing responses. A lot of them seem canned and scripted, but it's also just very cringe, kind of like Ramon said, right? Like, if a person's already downvoted it, in some of these cases, some of these customers have gotten a refund for the game, then you're not going to reverse their decision by putting a bunch of pithy words, right, on Steam. Yeah, and again, it's, and a lot of the responses, right, kind of characterize my overall problem with the Xbox messaging right now, which is not taking accountability for the fact that something that you have put on the market hasn't resonated with the customer, right? If I say that I don't like the game, don't come into my thread telling me that my perspective is wrong, right? I'm looking at Schrodinger's box, right, from an incorrect angle, right? That's not how you speak to customers. And if your effort is to try and win people over, what you need to say is, you need to, quite frankly, just be a man about it. And you need to say, look, we tried to create something innovative. We tried to, have these different takes or different approaches. We understand that it didn't resonate well with the customer. That not everyone is buying into the vision. We appreciate the people who it is landing with, and we hope that you'll stay and be part of the community. But in the meantime, we're listening to everyone else's feedback, and we're gonna look at whether or not there are things that we will take into account in how we maintain Starfield and continue moving it forward. It's a property that's going to be around, for the next decade. And where, we choose to not implement that in Starfield, we'll still take that feedback into consideration as we proceed to work on, the Elder Scrolls 6. But But again, just the whole Steve Jobs, you're holding the phone wrong approach is just again yet another, yet another poo burger, right, on the cow patty pile of not knowing what it is they're doing with regards to PR and marketing, in my opinion.
You're a pony.
The thing, the thing that really,
yeah, but I'm also 87% of the market.
No, I say you're.
the
I
whole,
say you're.
you're 87% of the herd.
I say you're a pony because unfortunately people are going to. Like, Ramon and I were talking about this earlier. People can't separate emotion from having from discourse, from the dialogue we're having about Bethesda, about them going into Steam user reviews, and the Steam user reviews for this game are well below the Metacritic average. We talked about it, Steam user reviews being a pretty good indicator of a game.
I just want to add the data point, Brett, but by the way, as you're responding to the things I was saying, understand that I looked at the Starfield user reviews, but I also went over to the Forza Motorsport user reviews where Xbox is doing the same thing.
So Xbox is telling people that they're not playing the game correctly?
Man.
Yeah.
Wow. So, okay.
Damn.
Yeah, and real quick, Ramon, I'm sorry, I'll give you the mic here in a second, but one of the things I found kind of odd too was one of the Steam user reviews criticized the game for infinite loading screens, and the Bethesda developer replied, or somebody from Bethesda replied, saying, while there may be loading screens in between fast traveling, just consider the amount of data for the expansive gameplay that is precisely generated to load flawlessly in under 3 seconds. Now, that is an issue I had with Starfield, the loading screens and how disjointed it made the game feel at times. Like, if you're telling me that, like, I don't. First of all, like, for me, the expensive the amount of data for the expansive gameplay that's procedurally generated, like that's not something that I cared about in the game. Like, it's not something that I said to myself, well, you know what? The load times are long, and that's okay, and it feels disjointed because, hey, all that other stuff that's loading in the background that I can't interact with right now, that I can't see because it's all procedurally generated, hey, it's okay. Like, that's not... That response would have bugged me because actually that's one of the complaints that I had about the game. And before people get upset, BRAP's hating on Starfield. I think Starfield's a good game. I give it an 8 out of 10. I don't think it's Bethesda's best game. But I thought that was kind of like odd, like just kind of being dismissive of someone's, experience with loading screens. And that's actually been one of the more reoccurring criticisms of this game is the amount of load screens. But go ahead, Ramon.
Oh, man, like Todd frustrates the hell out of me, like with his insistence on. Well, okay, so the loading screen. I'm a pretty forgiving gamer, right? So, but my thing when I'm seeing load screens, you can't fly to and land on planets in real time. So my thing is if you're already in a specific system already, I don't understand I can't even collect my thoughts. You go through doors and there's load screens. Like, I mean, New Atlantis is there. Why are we going through load screens to leave the lodge to go out into the courtyards and everything? Like, just stuff like that just blows my mind. And I understand they wanted to have 1,000 planets, but the average person probably wouldn't visit 100 planets in their lifetime. You know what I mean? Like, why couldn't they scale it back from, like, I think it's 1,000, right? Like, instead of 1,000, why not just do 200? Instead of making it so that you can interact with, this ball of lint and this peanut and this notepad and this pen and this pencil and these shoes and this eyebrow plucker. Like, I don't interact with all of that stuff in my real life. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't pick up every pen and notepad in real life. Like, why? It's, like I've heard you say it before, it was cute back when, hardware was barely able to do it. And you're like, oh man, you can pick up and interact with anything. Okay, that's cool. But now let's go with efficiency now. Like, instead of doing all of that stuff, make it 3D objects, but leave it at that because they're unnecessary. There is no reason at all in that game to pick up a pen and a notepad. They serve no function. Dishes serve no function. So it just drives me nuts that they could have saved all those resources and scaled back the number of planets and then given us a game that has fewer load screens and is just, I don't know, more engaging. Like that's the main thing that just frustrating.
Yeah, I don't disagree, Ramon. Like that's I've said this. Why are you laughing, Logic? I've said this quite a bit. I just feel like the design philosophy is antiquated at this point. It was great 20 years ago. It was great 10 years ago, but it doesn't add anything to me. Like just because you can interact with plastic cups, sandwiches, that to me that doesn't make it. That doesn't add any value to the experience for me, And if it takes away from, if it means that if adding those things means that I have board loading times or it impacts performance like frames, I don't want it. I don't like that trade-off isn't worth it to me. I'm playing Baldur's Gate 3 and Baldur's Gate 3. I'm playing Baldur's Gate 3 and the world just feels amazing. This world that's so alive and you can interact with a lot of things, but not everything.
BRAP, did you see T-Rock's comment?
Oh, that's pretty funny, T-Rock. That is funny. But no, seriously, like I just doesn't. It was cool 20 years ago because we couldn't do it. We had never experienced a game where you could literally interact with everything. It was great. It was great with Morrowind. It was great with Skyrim. But to me, it's just antiquated now. It just doesn't add any value to me. For me, it doesn't add anything to the game experience. Like I remember like opening chess. I'm like, why the hell am I getting plates and knives for what? Like, what's the point of having this? What does this do for my character? How does this progress the story? Yeah.
Oh man, you reminded me of. So I'm very, very late to the Elder Scrolls Bethesda party. So the first time I played an Elder Scrolls game was Skyrim, and that was the remaster version on PS4, and that was like. And I actually played it on PS5, so that tells you how recent it was. It was the first year I had the PS5. Now, I walked through, I kid you not, before I came back above ground after the initial scene and everything, I was already encumbered because I picked up everything in sight because I figured it had a purpose. So I was like, oh, these dishes must have a purpose. Maybe I can, melt them and make components out of it, blah, blah, blah. I picked up everything. Then the next thing I know, I could barely walk, and he's like, "You are encumbered," and I'm like, "I'm encumbered," and then I'm like, "Well, why is this stuff here if I can't carry it all?" And then over the course of a little bit of time, I'm like, "Wait a minute, so these things actually don't serve a purpose? Like, why are they here?" Like, I just remember being puzzled because I was able to pick up all of this stuff that served no purpose, and then finally, I was just like, is this stuff just here just to be here? Like, it was the strangest thing. I couldn't wrap my mind around it. I was just like, why am I able to pick up all this stuff that doesn't serve a purpose? Like, I remember being confused about that. And then finally I just realized, I'm like, I guess they just did this because it's cool. I don't know. All the books and everything, the books, they have lore and everything. So that's cool. But yeah, I just remember being puzzled by that before I realized that it's just a bunch of stuff that I should ignore because all it's going to do is just encumber me.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'd rather have, sometimes less is more. So I'd rather have maybe less planets, cause again, like the exploration of barren, like that just doesn't do anything for me. For some people, yeah, maybe that's something that other people find entertaining. But I would have preferred smaller planets with planets that felt more alive. Like when I went to New Atlantis?
Yeah.
I was like, I was expecting this like city, and maybe this isn't fair to have this expectation, but I was expecting something like, oh my God, what's the city in Cyberpunk called? Jeez, why can't I remember the name of the city?
Night City?
Night City, yes, thank you. Night City, yeah. Night City's so alive and vibrant. When I go to New Atlantis, I'm like, Oh, this is it? Like, it was just disappointing. It was disappointing.
What disappointed me was, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead, man.
I was gonna say what disappointed me was I was actually looking forward to going to different planets and then mining the different materials and minerals and seeing what's on the planets, even if they're not populated. But then I just found that I don't want to do that. And then I just yesterday I went to a planet that was a completely different planet than another planet that I had visited, and it's at least the part that I was on was laid out exactly the same as the another planet that I was on. And I'm like, is this the same planet? And I looked and it wasn't. And then when I went and it had the same cave in the same location. And I'm like, another reason I knew it wasn't the same planet is because it didn't have the same monsters on it that, or, animals, whatever you want to call them, that the other planet was. And I'm like, so this is a different planet, but it's laid out exactly the same. It made me think of the first Mass Effect where every structure you went into was exactly the same. It was. And that game is how many years old? So, it's just like things like that where I feel like they could have just, like you said, like we've all been saying, just do away with the sandwiches and the pens and the notepads, scale back the number of planets, and just imagine what they could have done with like half of what they did. Like, just imagine if they only had 50 planets. And then they did away with all the useless stuff to interact with, and they could have made something crazy. Like, I don't know. It just seems like a waste to me.
Yeah.
This is coming, and I'm enjoying the game, but for me, it's a 7 so far. Go ahead. Yeah. Sorry.
Now, I do want to move on to some Nintendo Switch news here. There's some speculation that the Nintendo Switch 2, that Level 5, who's a developer, they released a teaser for Fantasy Life, and it's led to some discussion about the Nintendo Switch 2 release date. Now, the game was originally scheduled to release in 2023, but was delayed until 2024, according to developer, for better quality and gameplay. So people are seeing better quality gameplay, and they're assuming that this means that this game will now be launching on the Nintendo Switch 2. And Level 5 has said that they didn't give a specific date, but they said summer of 2024. So that's led to some speculation that that the Nintendo Switch 2 may be launching towards the latter part of the summer, August, September of next year. I'm not getting. I saw some people get like very excited about this, but I'm not until Nintendo says, "Hey, this is the release date for the Switch 2." I do think it's time for Switch 2, though. I would like to see a Switch 2. We're at what, 7? We're at 7 years now, right? Nintendo Switch. Or are we going to 7 years?
Yeah, I think so. Something like that. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's March of this year will be 7 years. Yeah.
We're in the 7th year.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So
crazy.
Yeah, but this is pure speculation. But I thought it was interesting. I did see people get, like I said, very excited about the Switch 2. So we'll see.
Yeah, I think the Switch, will. It's always a question. Some people are commenting in the chat about the product name, and pretty sure it'll be named the Nintendo Switch Series S to align with Game Pass coming to the Nintendo Switch.
Oh man, come on! Oh my goodness. Game Switch is coming.
Switch Pass.
Switch Pass.
Switch Pass. Yeah. That makes more sense.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah. So I will say this though. It's going to be interesting. The one thing I'm curious to see with Nintendo, with the Nintendo Switch 2, is if they do backwards compatibility. If they allow people to bring their catalog of games with them, if that's going to be,
they almost definitely are.
Yeah.
The foretelling of that was the commentary that this is the first time in Nintendo hardware history that we're going to maintain continuity between the storefront, which means your account is going to maintain continuity. And so to me, it would only make sense for that to include backwards compatibility. And I just think with the way Nintendo Switch, with the way that Nintendo has sold 130 million, units, there's just no way that they want to abandon that community, which. I mean,
But it is
I will admit it
Nintendo.
always. Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
it
It
is
is
It's
always
Nintendo.
Nintendo.
It
risky
is
to make
Nintendo.
predictions around Nintendo, but like, it's tough. I mean, I'm realizing it's half of me trying to predict based on technical and business basis, and then also I'm realizing that it's also what my hopes and dreams and wishes are for, right? That I'll be able to bring that library, and that this
Yeah, me
means that it
too.
will be an NVIDIA platform, another NVIDIA ARM platform refresh, which will just bring a lot of niceties along with it, including potential technical improvements with what NVIDIA is doing with machine learning and AI.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great
Yeah.
point, Logic. Yeah. Um, Also, this month, by the way, and this is something that GameIndustry.biz reported on, and I completely forgot about it, but this month is the 10-year anniversary of the launch of the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. So I think,
Oh yeah, that's right.
yeah, Logic, have we talked about the launch of the Xbox One on this show? I'm sure we have. But have we talked about it recently? I don't remember. I feel like we may have had a conversation about it recently.
Yeah,
Um,
no offense, but I feel like we talk about it all the time. But
we talk about the where the Series X is tracking behind the Xbox One right now, or not the Series
yeah,
X,
I mean,
the Series
I just
consoles.
think it's a well-worn path. It's the whole Matrix shenanigans and him eventually being fired and
Yeah,
going to work for Zynga, and then the launch of the Xbox One is kind of synonymous with the flare that went up that eventually led to the rise of Phil Spencer, right?
yeah, no, absolutely, yeah. Um, but I will say this: I always thought that the Xbox One had a better launch in terms of games than the PlayStation 4.
Yeah, it did.
Because I remember I had the day one Xbox One edition with the day one controller, 2013. I wasn't as and I remember the media was kind of like, why are they bundling why are they force bundling the Kinect? And of course I was like, oh, that's the media, that's the Xbox tax. I'm joking, by the way. I just got to poke fun at that whole narrative that's going around about the Xbox tax. I find it amusing.
What I remember when
yeah,
I don't necessarily know. I mean, I would have to lay the list down next to each other. What I do remember is that the number of launch titles across both platforms was like really close. Like within like single digits of each other. So there was a lot of narrative around the time that like one console was launching with more games, and I'm like, okay, like 2 or 3 more games than the other one doesn't really make an impactful difference. What I remember about the PlayStation 4 launch lineup that I just didn't have a big care for is there was a lot of value and credit given to PlayStation for a large part of that launch library that was indie games. And as a PC gamer, I was like, okay, but those are all games that have been on PC for years, and I've
yeah,
either already played them or I already decided that I wasn't interested in them, and I don't need them as part of my PlayStation 4 launch library.
yeah. Yeah, I think the one game, you're right, and it was kind of like the joke back then was it was called the Indie Station. But I remember the launch titles that really stood out to me for the PlayStation 4. The big one was Killzone Shadowfall, which looked really good, which really looked really really good on the PlayStation 4 as a launch title.
Still holds up.
Yeah, Resogun was Housemarque's launch title for the PlayStation 4. And that was actually a game that was reviewed, but I believe Resogun was also a Vita port, if I'm not mistaken. I think, or ported Vita. I don't remember, but anyhow, so Resogun was one of those launch titles. But to me, Killzone Shadowfall was the big one, and then there was Battlefield 4. I was playing Battlefield 4 on the 360. I did actually pick up the Xbox One version of that, and then obviously Call of Duty Ghost launch. Flower, I think, was the other indie game that released, and then there was Knack, which I didn't care for. And then I think Warframe was another launch title, if I'm not mistaken, of the PlayStation 4. But
It was.
yeah, but for me at least, the Xbox One launch games stood out more. There was Rise, Son of Rome, which I really, to this day, I'll still go back and play. It's actually one of my favorite Xbox One games. Wasn't reviewed well, but I'm a sucker for anything set in Rome, in ancient Rome. And they also had what's the Dead Rising 3 was the other launch title as well. So those were the game, and then the Forza, was it Motorsport or Forza Horizon that launched with the Xbox One? I don't remember.
It was Motorsport 5.
Okay, so Motorsport 5 also launched. So they had a pretty good launch lineup for the Xbox One, and I think there was also, I think they bundled it a Kinect. Was it Kinect Sports?
Yeah, there was something like that at the launch.
Yeah. So, but actually, again, I personally enjoyed, preferred the launch lineup of the Xbox One over the PS4, but.
Yeah, it was Xbox Fitness, is what it was called.
Was that? I thought there was another. Wow, Gregor Von Du says BRAP likes anything set in ancient Rome because it reminds him of his childhood.
Oh my god,
I'm not that old.
Oh, hey, yo, what's up, B Money?
What's up,
Yo,
B?
what's going on, fellas? What's going on?
So B, we were just talking about the 10-year anniversary of the launch of the PlayStation 4, Xbox One. Which console do you think had the best launch lineup of? Because I think they launched. Did the Xbox One launch first, and then the PlayStation 4 the week after, or did I have it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it was the 15th and the 22nd was one.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. So which one do you think had the best or the better launch lineup?
I mean, to me, Xbox had the better launch lineup. They just had more games that kind of appealed to me at the time, but we quickly realized that they had a great launch, and then they fumbled the bag after that, because similar to what always happens is PlayStation kind of starts off slow, and then once they get the ball rolling,
well, except for this gen,
the global appeal just it takes over, so. I think Xbox had the better launch lineup. Dead Rising 3 was there. They had Rise on the Rome. Motorsport 5 was there. That's something else too. But yeah, they had the better launch lineup. But I think just coming off of everything that PlayStation had as far as like at the back end of PS3, a lot of people just decided to go PS4 because they knew what was coming down the road. You know what I mean? Like people forget that The Last of Us launched the same year that the PS4 came out. It just came out in June.
Yeah.
So like if they would have held that game just a couple of months later, 5-6 months later, and had that as a launch title, you know what I mean? They could have did like crazy numbers. That would have forced a lot of people to go over to PS4 just because it was a brand new Naughty Dog game, brand new IP. But and they did the same thing with Gran Turismo. Like it launched in November, I think. Of that.
Yeah, that never made sense to me. By the way, that they launched Gran Turismo and
I never understood that move either.
Yeah. So I mean, they made a bunch of goofy mistakes, towards the end of the PS3 generation, and then launching the PS4, where they could have bolstered their lineup those first couple of years if they would have, brought some of those games over, similar to what they did this time.
Because of what I always say, somebody at Polyphony has some son or daughter of some C-level officer in as a hostage in their basement, and Polyphony, quite frankly, just gets to do whatever the fuck it is. They are literally the Nintendo studio of PlayStation. They are allowed to do whatever the fuck it is that they want to do.
That is so true.
I've spent a lot of my life being frustrated by it, and now I just find it funny.
Yeah,
it's just unreal how did they get.
Yeah, I don't get it.
Yeah,
but since we went down to the path the tail of the tape is there were, if my counts were correct, there were 22 Xbox One games at launch versus 26 PlayStation 4 games at launch. And then I'm remembering now the other statistic that I used to talk about. But their launch lineups were actually very, very, very similar. Because a lot of the third parties who showed up on one showed up on the other. So they both had Assassin's Creed in common. They both had Battlefield 4 in common. They both had Call of Duty Ghosts in common. FIFA 14. So there was, I mean, yes, there were 22 and 26 titles, but like a large chunk of those titles were the same. Where PlayStation 4 really killed them was in the follow-up. And so when you talk about the launch window titles, so games that came out like within the first, I don't know, 6 months or so, 6 to 8 months of the console's life cycle, that output on the Xbox One side was very, very, very small. Actually, Kinect Sports Rivals was one of those titles. It wasn't there at launch. It came out a little bit after the console. Your Minecraft One, Xbox One edition. Their biggest ones were Titanfall showing up, and then Wolfenstein: The New Order. Where PlayStation 4 really did them under was a lot of those. There was a huge bow wave of indie titles that followed up. In the launch window after initial launch.
And remember how big Rocket League was for the PlayStation 4 as well?
I don't see that in this list.
I think that was like the next year, I think, when Rocket League launched.
Yeah, I think it was outside the launch window.
Yeah, it was outside the launch window. But I'm saying, that was actually a big game, big exclusive for PlayStation 4 at the time.
Yeah, but some of their games that came in the launch window, right, that led to them, kind of going on to kind of just drown Xbox One was Infamous Second Son showed up.
Good game.
Yes, it was, and the DLC.
Those things, yeah.
Yeah, I was actually streaming.
War
that
Thunder
on
showed up on the
Plus.
platform.
What did?
War Thunder,
which
is another big multiplayer. I'm not sure how well it's done overall in the life cycle. Not Warhawk. So War Thunder is it's an online PvP multiplayer game that I guess kind of think of World of Tanks. What you would get if you took World of Tanks and merged it with World at War, and also put I don't know if it has ground troops in it, but I know it has tanks and aircraft. So it's a combined arms multiplayer game. I've always wanted to get into it, but something has been dorked up with my accounts. It's the very first time that I try to download it, but it's fairly popular and kind of runs alongside in that crowd that plays like the wargaming.net games. So you typically hear World of Tanks, World of Warships, and then War Thunder kind of mentioned in the same breath, although they're from different. Two of them are from wargaming.net, and then War Thunder is from Gaijin Entertainment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the Xbox One, I also thought had some really other outside of the launch window, had some really great exclusives. Titanfall being one. They also, it was a really big news story at the time that Insomniac had worked on an Xbox exclusive, which was Sunset Overdrive, which is really good. And I got to say, like, I actually really like the Kinect features, like the voice commands, and the ability to switch from my Xbox to my TV, to cable TV, just via voice command. I actually like that a lot.
Well, it's so funny, we constantly poo-poo the Kinect, and probably, deservedly so. But I will say, like, I still miss to this day, I still miss walking into my game room after coming home from work and not saying Xbox on.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a pretty cool feature.
That was, yeah. Yeah. B, do you remember the, I remember being like Xbox, like go to TV or Xbox, remember you could watch TV at the same time as playing games? Like it would you'd have like a little window, like picture in picture.
Yeah.
Was it like Xbox Snap?
Yeah. Once the NFL season started, you put your fantasy football up there. So like, you could have your you see your fantasy football team, and like as they gain points and stuff. Like you could see it like live. Like they had a lot of cool features, man. And once they stripped away the Kinect, a lot of that stuff went away, which kind of sucked. Everybody's crying about the Kinect, but everybody's got a fucking phone in their hand. And guess what happens when you sign on to all these apps? Guess what? Your phone is listening to you all the time. Every time you pick your phone up, your camera's recording you. You're like, all these apps, you gotta be allowed to know exactly where you are. You gotta use your GPS.
Yep.
You gotta enable your camera. You gotta enable, all these features on your phone. But everybody cried about the Connect. It's so backwards.
Dude, if it connects to the internet, you have no privacy from it.
No,
If it connects to the internet, like
and the voice command stuff is commonplace now.
Yeah.
I mean, we have the what's it, the Alexas.
We have everything.
Yeah, everything's
Yeah.
So I actually I didn't agree with some of the backlash about Connect. It's spying. Like I was like, look, I like it. I think it's a great feature. I used it. I was disappointed when they got rid of it because the multimedia functionality of the Xbox One was actually pretty good.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah, and actually, you can get at least the turn on functionality. I'm not sure. I'm sure there's more, but you can actually do that if you wanted to integrate your Xbox Series with Alexa.
Oh, you can. Okay. Yeah.
However, the last thing I'm going to do, look, it's hypocritical because I'm technology down. I mean, unquestionably so. But the last thing I'm going to do in my home is create an unholy marriage between Microsoft and Amazon.
That's funny.
Oh my gosh.
By the way, real quick, we have about 180 people here watching. Please hit that like button if you haven't done so already. Helps out the show. Appreciate the support. I do want to move on to another news item here. Apparently, Jim Ryan really wasn't fired, contrary to some of the narrative out there. Because if you're a fired CEO, you don't go out there and make deals. Nor are you showing up in a white T-shirt, shaking the hand of another CEO that you just made a deal with. Sony Interactive Entertainment has teamed up.
That's photoshopped.
It's photoshopped.
Photoshop,
AI
sir.
created that photo. AI created.
Don't be so gullible, sir.
It's photoshopped. Yes, that's right. Silly me. SIE Interactive with Jim Ryan in a white T-shirt, shaking the hand of NCSoft CEO, announced they've entered a partnership that will involve collaboration in various business fields, including mobile. Currently, this is an article by GameIndustry.biz. Please, if you haven't done so, check out GameIndustry.biz. They're actually, in my opinion, the best news site for all things video games. So currently, two companies are evaluating their business opportunities. NCSoft, they do, I think it's Guild Wars 2. They do a lot of like MMO type stuff, games of service type games, if I'm not mistaken. Let me go. I'll have to look them up again. Give me a second here.
Yeah, I really didn't. I considered this news story as a nothing burger, so I really didn't pay any attention to it. But it actually does strike me really weird that Jim Ryan is at this partnership signing in literally a white T-shirt.
Yes.
Yeah, man, my boy thugging it out here, man. He chilling, bro. He was probably at his house, fucking had his slippers on, smoking a cigar, and he was like, "Yo, we need you to go sign this deal." He was like, "Bro, I don't want to." He was like, "Just come out as you are." And he just rolled off the couch, pulled up, and signed the deal, man. He didn't put no tie on, he don't even got no collar on his shirt, man. What CEO do you know that's doing that?
and apparently he's fired. So now you're gonna send a fired CEO wearing a white T-shirt and shaking hands at a press conference and signing a deal, but he's fired.
I will say, BRAP, just to throw a little cold water on your assertion, it is often, very, very often, things like this happen, and the pictures are taken. The news is released later. And so this could absolutely be a picture from, sometime much sooner than November of 2023.
I've got no comment.
I wonder what the likelihood of that is, though, because up until that announcement, he has never been seen.
And he's been doing interviews.
Well,
the last couple of weeks. Like, Jim Ryan, what are you doing, bro? I thought you were retiring. Go chill somewhere.
Yeah.
Why wasn't the acting CEO there signing it? They announced his retirement like 2 months ago. And man, he's chilling, bro.
Yeah,
He's just waiting until end of January.
and they also announced
Let him get out of there.
they also signed an agreement partnership with Stellar Blades developer Shift Up.
Shift Up, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, they're gonna be the publisher of the games.
Yeah, so
there's gonna be more announcements like that coming soon.
Yeah. Well, the NCSoft executive said the Korean video game developer publisher will deliver a new and enjoyable experience to all our audience across and beyond genres and regions thanks to this partnership with Sony. Partnering with NCSoft advances our strategy to expand beyond console and broaden PlayStation to reach a wider audience, said Jim Ryan. NCSoft shares similar vision in creating high-quality, impactful entertainment experiences for players everywhere. Together, we're excited to collaborate to push the boundaries of gaming further. Now, again, Guild Wars 2 is like the game that they're known for. Now there was a report last year that there's a Horizon MMO that Sony's working on, but that it was in works at NCSoft. So we'll see. Again, that hasn't been confirmed, but that's a story that's out there right now. So, B, this kind of speaks to what you've been talking about for some time about, and it's something I really haven't been paying attention a lot to. I know that Falky's talked about it. You talked about it quite a bit about Sony. I think that the focus, at least here in the States, we tend to focus a lot on what's happening here. And you talked about PlayStation building relationships. And when we talked about what Sony needs to do with, some kind of response to Microsoft's acquisition of ABK, I think one of the things you mentioned, I know one of the things Falky had mentioned, we've had him on the show, was that they're going to continue building these kind of partnerships, these regional partnerships. We saw Shuei in India for, I think it was a game developer GDC in India. You talked about developing relationships there. You're seeing this with NCSoft. Is this something that you think they're going to continue doing?
Oh yeah, man. This has been long coming. You know what I mean? They've already had the China Hero project, so they've already tapped into China. They have the India Hero project, so that's why Shuhei was there in India. They're tapping in there. They're tapping into Africa. You know what I mean? They're one of the biggest things that came out of their financials is that they have all this revenue, but they're not making enough profit because the game development costs way too much for what they're doing. So the best thing for them to do is to find ways to access games at a lower cost. And doing that is when you tap into different regions where it doesn't cost as much to get these games developed. So this is going to continue. We're going to see more partnerships like this, coming from different regions. And we'll continue to see a bevy of games coming from developers that you probably wouldn't think of. You know what I mean? But they're going to be bringing quality content to the platform. And that's something that Sony has always done. A lot of people like to talk about their first party, but really their first party really didn't get going until like tail end of last generation. Maybe I mean, if you want to consider what Naughty Dog was doing on the PS3, but like, Insomniac was not a first party studio then. Sucker Punch had really just come into the fold. Killzone really wasn't doing, what they expected. So, their first party really didn't start getting rolling until the PS4 generation, where, we kind of hold their first party in high regard. So, they've always had these partnerships where they've, tapped into, these second party relationships and we get these exclusive games on their platform, and they'll continue to do that.
And definitely full credit to B Money kind of cueing this, but Brett, what did I say was a likely PlayStation response to the Activision acquisition? That instead of going after singular exclusive titles right, with a contract that bound, Square Enix to deliver a thing, and then going back to Square Enix, right, for the next exclusive, or going back to Bandai Namco for the next, that they would seek to seal up long-term deals that included multiple exclusives or multiple product deliveries over a longer period of time. That would be an effective way for them to combat the acquisition, since they don't necessarily have the capital to go after acquiring companies, obviously nowhere near the scale of Activision.
Mm-hmm.
And it only makes sense for whoever they choose to partner with, because why wouldn't you align yourself with the biggest gaming console brand that there is? You know what I mean? So for them it's kind of like a win-win. They look at this influx of money that's coming from Sony, and then they are able to reach a broader audience. So it's everything's gonna be it's all strategic. It's all it's nothing that's gonna that you would expect. Everything's gonna come out of left field, but we're gonna continue to see quality content from it. Like, people forget that the reason that the Soul series is so big is because like Game Log was just talking about, they went to From Software and they got one game, and then they didn't realize what they had in Demon Souls, and they let From Software walk away. So then From Software makes Dark Souls, and it becomes one of the biggest genres on the planet, and they continue to iterate on it, and now they can't get them back, because they've become bigger than what the partnership was. So they're going to continue to get these larger partnerships where they're going to get multiple games, similar to what they did with the team that did the Detroit Become Human game, and they did Quantic Dream.
Quantic Dream, yeah.
Where they had the 3-game deal.
Heavy Rain
Heavy Rain. Yeah, so we'll continue to see deals like that, where it's less one-off, and maybe a 3 to 5 game deal, for just longer partnerships, and then you kind of see what happens after that, and maybe there's some sort of acquisition down the line. But if you can kind of align yourself with a great partner and continue to produce quality content, then it works out for everybody.
Yeah, and there's some cool gaming trailers that have come out of the China Hero Project. I was just actually watching some as you were talking, B Money, but there's some really cool stuff that I've seen.
Yeah,
and I think Slomo has been pretty big, or has been following the China Hero Project as well, because I know he's talked about it quite a bit.
Yeah, cool stuff coming out of there.
One thing I wanted to mention, since I think you credited GameIndustry.biz for where you pulled the story, but shout out to those guys too, who GameIndustry.biz, I think it's VG247 and Eurogamer, as well as Digital Foundry and maybe one other one, who we may be looking at kind of the last vestiges of their existence, as ReedPop is shopping them around.
Yeah, I saw that. I actually saw someone suggest that Microsoft should buy them. But
okay, okay, so the Microsoft should buy them. Every time I hear that, you know what it makes me think about? Do you remember the first Christian Bale Batman? Remember when he was in his Bruce Wayne persona and he was talking to, I can't remember her name, but
he's like, I own this hotel.
No, they were in the building.
Are you talking about Katie Holmes?
Katie Holmes, yeah. So they're in the building, and then Bruce is like, this isn't me. And then he has 2 girls sitting out in his sports car, and they're like, come on, Bruce, there's still more buildings for you to buy. It just, every time I hear someone say Xbox should buy this and buy that, it just makes me think of that scene where it's just like groupies just, spending your money for you.
That's funny, man.
Every single time I hear that.
Yeah.
Come
Well,
on, Xbox. There's still more studios for you to buy.
yeah, I thought that was this guy was dead serious about that, by the way. And I'm like, oh, we want corporations now to buy media. That think about how bad that can go. That could go wrong so many ways. Yeah, no, but no, it's funny, man, because I was thinking about Jim Ryan, the T-shirt, and I was thinking about what you said, and again, it just kind of speaks to it's just one of those other things when reality comes to play to just debunks another false narrative that's going around, that Jim Ryan was fired. So,
or PlayStation is going to go bankrupt tomorrow.
Yeah, I saw that too.
It's funny because it's like, we hear the announcement about him retiring or whatever, and everybody's like, oh, he's fired. Whatever the case is, everybody thought that PlayStation was just going to turn around everything that he did, flip it upside down, and not, follow through on what his plan was. But quite the contrary, it looks like they're doing exactly everything that he laid out.
Yeah, the NCSoft thing, I think, is part of that, right? Part of that
Right.
vision, yeah. Yeah, if you know what they do, yeah. Yeah, that's a great point, B. All right, I do want to move on to... Yeah, go ahead, Ramon. Sorry, man, go ahead.
No. I was just going to say, in my opinion, it also seems healthier for the industry. Instead of gobbling everything up, these studios can keep their independence and they get the funding to make the games they want to make. Sure, they give up the IP, but they're able to get a foundation under them without having to worry about, keeping the lights on because they're not owned, but they have the infusion of money from PlayStation. So it's, it's not just consolidating everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I do want to move on to another news story here. The Xbox CEO, Tim Stewart, was speaking at a Wells Fargo TMT summit. And there's really like two parts to this story. And I was kind of going back and forth, having some dialogue here with people on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it. And some people were saying, oh, BRAP, because I tweeted out that they're going to go third party. And the reason I said that is a couple things. Well, a couple things that stood out to me about what Tim Stewart said. But part of what people were saying in response to my tweet was, oh, no, BRAP, he's talking about Activision Blizzard King. That's the context that he's talking about putting their games on these other platforms. And people have only highlighted his commentary about the acquisition of ABK. And he was asked about the acquisition of ABK and having, Call of Duty in your pocket. And one of the things Tim Stewart said, he said that Microsoft's primary reason of buying Activision Blizzard King was at the Xbox. He's saying that the console space isn't growing fast enough. He basically confirmed that for them, the Xbox console isn't growing that fast. So with Candy Crush, Call of Duty Mobile, they're able to do things when it comes to mobile games now. And he says, yes, mobile is where the most gamers in the world play. He says, we think about console landscape, and part of the real evolution of the deal was, hey, look, we've got a fixed console audience with Xbox, or relatively fixed, but not growing that fast. We know that if you look at the last financials, the last 4 quarters of Xbox hardware growth, it's been negative, and not just in Europe, but also here in the United States. I said earlier in the show that the Xbox Series consoles are tracking behind the Xbox One, even here in the U.S. But he did say that we think the console, we think about the console landscape, and the part of the real evolution of the deal was, hey, look, we've got a fixed console audience with Xbox, relatively fixed, but not growing that fast. You got a couple 100 million kind of console addressable market. You got 300 million, 400 million kind of in that PC market, and then you have billions in the mobile market. He then goes on to discuss that they want to make Call of Duty a high-margin first-party business instead of a low-margin third-party business for Microsoft, in which the CFO then said, or Tim Stewart then follows up and says that they want to drive high margin sales on rival platforms, including PlayStation, Nintendo. He says, so that's kind of when you think about the Xbox component of Call of Duties. Call of Duty, you go from, again, that low margin business to high margin business. Then what you do is you also expand and say, we're now driving high margin sales on PlayStation and on Nintendo. So that's one part. And that's the part that that was kind of the rebuttal that I got from people. Oh, no, he's not talking about first party studios. He's just talking about ABK. And he was talking about ABK, but he also goes on to talk about first party. And this is what really stood out to me, where he says he wants to see first-party Xbox games and Xbox Game Pass on every screen possible, including rival consoles like PlayStation and Nintendo. He says it's a bit of a change of strategy, not announcing anything broadly here, but our mission is to bring our first-party experiences and our subscription services to every screen that plays games. That means smart TVs, that means mobile devices. That means what we would have thought as competitors in the past, like PlayStation and Nintendo. Look, I read this and I'm thinking this to me screams behavior of a third-party publisher. And we know, based on previous leaked emails from Phil Spencer to Epic CEO Tim Sweeney, that Phil actually wants to get, or was seeking to get, xCloud or Game Pass on rival gaming platforms like the Nintendo Switch and PlayStation. So, Ramon, you hear all this, right? And I talked about the ABK piece. I talked about the other piece of this news story. How do you interpret what he's saying? What is your interpretation of all this?
I mean, honestly, it seemed pretty doggone clear. Like, they want their games on as many platforms as they can get them on. And he specifically named, he didn't just leave it at that. He said, that's our games on mobile. That's our games on PlayStation. That's our games on Nintendo. I mean, it can't be any more clear than that. They want their games everywhere. And this is also the chief financial officer. So, they're looking at, I assume this man is looking at revenue and saying, okay, how can we increase, revenue and profit? Okay, we can get these games. We already got the games on PC. We have a platform, a console platform that, they say that they're still going to, continue making consoles. Like, there'll be another generation of consoles. We'll see. But he specifically named the entities where they want their games. And I could be wrong, but I feel like I remember a few years ago, where Phil Spencer didn't he say something about we'd have Xbox on PlayStation if they would have it? Which, I would be shocked if that ever happened. But the fact that they were willing to do that, and the only reason why Game Pass is not on PlayStation is because PlayStation doesn't want it on there, of course, kind of also speaks to the fact that they're not married to the idea of having first party games exclusive to their platform. So, I mean, in my opinion, I don't know how it could be any clearer than what he said.
Yeah, that was kind of my point. I was saying on X or Twitter today, and the pushback was again that he's only talking about the ABK, but he's not. He talked about both actually. Logic, hearing this, what's your interpretation of what he said today?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't think he said. I mean, it was interesting to hear from the Xbox CFO, right, saying things that correlated with, things I'd been saying based on, information that came out from the leaks and things that Phil Spencer had been saying. So that just kind of reinforces it, when the money person, who, based on kind of the tale of like the early meeting that he and Phil had when they wanted to buy Mojang with Satya and Amy Hood. And remember, I've always talked about like it's clear that there was a whether it happened on one day or a series of days, it's clear that there was a heart-to-heart discussion of the Xbox business unit with Satya, and we're seeing much more synergy and much more alignment to what the Xbox has always been moving, until these past few years, has always been moving in a direction that was significantly disparate from the rest of Microsoft. And over the last few years, we've seen a lot of harmonization and unity in what Xbox is doing with the rest of the Microsoft business. And I said that's the type of thing that comes when two executives get together and have a heart to heart, and the junior person kind of gets it, right? And in my opinion, that's the tale that kind of got told about that Mojang meeting, because Satya said, "Yeah, I'm fine, whatever. Buy Mojang, right? Now pack up your PowerPoint and talk to me about why we're in gaming in general, right? What are we doing here?" And that to me is the type of meeting where you get out, this strategy that doubles down on cloud gaming, that doubles down on streaming, that doubles down on subscription, that converts the Xbox business to the same type of software-oriented business that Microsoft has become. I mean, we talked a few weeks ago about, Panos Panay, leaving the company because he was unhappy, because he wanted to build hardware, and he wanted to build experiences, and he wanted to build, the harmony that you get from, melding software with a siloed, technology stack that you entirely own from the hardware up. And that was not, where Microsoft was heading, after kind of Surface has had its time in the sun and done what it needed to do. And that product line is going to be continued, but Panos was looking to push it further forward, and he was not getting that buy-in, from the rest of the C-suite. So, it's the stars are lining up to what I've kind of always talked about, and nothing that really came out today was really particularly surprising.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you, Logic. I think, and we've been talking about this B Money on this show for years, that this may be the direction they head when they introduce Game Pass, and we've, if you're paying attention, you listen to how Phil talks about Xbox, kind of hit the evolution of his message, and the pivot for Xbox when they announced Game Pass, and you listen to Satya talk about video games, and you listen to and you see what, like, we talked about this a lot, Logic, where Satya kind of came in and is like, we're not doing hardware anymore. I mean, like, Windows Phone gone. Who knows what's going to happen with Surface? It sounds like maybe they're scaling back a little bit with Surface. But to your point, they're not a hardware company. They've never been a hardware company. Their focus has been software. And even Satya said, "Hey, look, I don't understand the first party stuff, exclusivity. I want, software everywhere."
Well, I will put one nit on that stack, right? The one thing to keep an eye out for is, in the last, I think, 2 weeks, I think Ignite was right before the Thanksgiving holiday. One thing to keep an eye out on is, Microsoft announced their chip design, which is what they're going to start putting in their data centers for AI and cloud. And that means that over time, they're not going to be buying NVIDIA GPUs to handle those AI ML workloads. What else goes in data centers? Xboxes, in order to stream you your games. What did we see out of the leak? We saw a design proposed by the hardware division of Xbox that was much more oriented around a box that was more purpose-built, or at least a hybrid, for something that you would put in a data center, and less focused on delivering frames and ray tracing and other high-end capabilities to people to run their games on-prem. So I think one thing to kind of keep an eye out for is what goes on with Microsoft getting their feet into building a custom chip design to put in their data centers for the purposes of AI and ML. What did we hear Tim Stewart talk about today? We heard Tim Stewart talk about the application of AI and ML to game development. And as Microsoft goes down this path of services and software and orienting its gaming experience around the data center, and we saw what's in the leak about the hybrid compute platform, hybrid compute gaming platform, it sounds an awful lot like the type of thing that would really benefit from Microsoft owning the silicon for that AI ML chip. Another dynamic that could play out too is, they announced that chip design, but they also then brought NVIDIA on stage, and talked about the strength of their partnership. So while they announced a product that clearly over time means that they're going to be moving NVIDIA aside, they can currently talk about how close they are with NVIDIA. So what is another business channel that NVIDIA could participate in along with Microsoft, if their AI ML silicon business line is being displaced? That might have something to do with gaming. So I would just kind of keep an eye out on that dynamic to see, which way the winds, tend for Microsoft and NVIDIA.
Yeah, real quick. I mentioned his commentary on exclusives, and actually, when he testified this past summer, he said he would like to eliminate the concept of exclusive games for consoles. He has no love for exclusive deals between game companies and consoles. That's what he said about video game exclusives. So, B Money, what are your thoughts about Tim Stewart's commentary? Any surprises here?
This is nothing new. I've been talking about this for many years. I've been saying this since the Inner Circle podcast. This was the direction that Microsoft wanted to go. The writing was on the wall when they bought Mojang. This way before the Game Pass even existed. When they bought Mojang, the writing was on the wall. If you look at what Microsoft has been doing with all of their software, putting Windows on Mac, they finally let down the wall and put Windows on Mac. We knew that this is what they're going to continue to do throughout the entire company. They want all their products everywhere. They're not in the business of hardware. They've never been. None of their hardware is ever really successful. I keep telling y'all, Xbox 360 was a fluke. It happened, and it sold 80 million or whatever it was because the console failed so many times. They will never see that ever again. Ever. People just don't care to buy their hardware like that. That's just facts. The writing's on the wall. Yeah. They're a software-based company, and this is what's going to happen. It's not going to be tomorrow. It's not going to be next year. But 10 years down the line, maybe after the next console, there won't be this big major box, this souped up 4K ray tracing box that you're gonna buy. That's because that's not the business that they're in. And if you listen to anyone who is at a C-suite executive at the company, they all talk the same way. It's not about the box. It hasn't been for a long time. They don't even really talk about the box. It's about Game Pass and putting their software wherever there's a screen. And they don't care what the screen is. They just want you to access it. And the fight between them and PlayStation and Nintendo and PlayStation aren't going to allow that to happen. So they have to go to GeForce Now. They have to go to Samsung TV. They have to go to all these other places to try to get people to want to access it there, because they're not going to get the access on those other consoles. Those other consoles are selling in the hundreds of millions. Those consoles are not going to allow that. They're not there to play nice. At the end of the day, that's just what it boils down to. Yeah, you can put single games over here. Mm-hmm. We're not signing this partnership where you're gonna be able to put your whole library of games and people can access it through a subscription. No. If you want to release your games over here, release them one by one like you've been doing. You had no problem doing that, so just do that. But to ever think that Game Pass is coming to Nintendo or PlayStation, you're out of your mind. They're not going to allow it to happen. So you can get it on your Samsung TV, you can get it on your smartwatch, you can get it on your toaster, but it ain't going to be on Nintendo and it ain't going to be on PlayStation.
B, to your point about, you said like something to the effect like nobody wants Xbox. Maybe you didn't say it quite like that, but I think one thing that when we say this stuff, like when we say that the demand signal for Xbox products is low, we're not making that up. I mean, just look at the sales numbers of the Xbox hardware, and that's fine. You can say, oh, it's hardware doesn't matter to them, they're a different business model, whatever. But the fact remains that what B's saying about people wanting Xbox hardware, that demand's low compared to Nintendo, or lower compared to Nintendo and Sony.
It's not just low. I mean, it's
free fall.
Greater. Yeah. I mean, it's Death Valley.
Well, I mean, I mean, I don't know about Death Valley, but
I mean, look. Let me give word to this once again with several punctuation marks. They've sold 26 million or so Xbox Series consoles. That is what's deployed in comparison to 130 million Nintendo Switches, and roughly like the same number, not too far behind, of the total PlayStation install base across PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5. And Xbox One got outsold 2-1 last generation, so at most it sold between 50 and 60 million, probably on the lower end of that. And we don't have indications that people are still playing Xbox One in any way that makes any impact upon the market in terms of procuring and acquiring software for that. Maybe they're still playing their Xbox One and, you know, streaming games over Xbox Cloud Gaming, right? But they're not having a significant impact on the market. So Xbox's console market footprint is 26 million consoles out of like 280. Again, that is like 9% of the console install base market.
And like we were saying before we went on the air too, to me, something else that's telling is if you planned on, you know, still having a serious go at the whole console thing, you know, then your wording would be different. Like, you know, Xbox available on your Samsung TV. It would be also available on your Samsung TV, but instead they say available on your Samsung TV, no console required. You can look at, you know, their ads and everything, no console required, no console required. That specific wording, like, I don't know, if it were me, I would not say you don't need my device isn't required. I would say also available on this TV, or also available on this also, not no console required, because that kind of wording says, oh, I don't need an Xbox console. You know what I mean? Like it almost seems like they're like turning people away.
Apple has services and apps that are available on other platforms at a very low volume, right, in terms of the number of those apps and services that they have. They don't talk about it. They make a singular announcement, right? And they say, hey, you can get Apple Music or whatever on Android.
Yep,
but you don't hear
on Android.
What's that?
I said I have Apple Music on Android.
Yeah. But you don't hear them, like Ramon said, you don't hear them running around, waving the flag, running up and down the football field, right, with mascots and furry costumes, blabbering about it every other week.
Did you say mascots and furry costumes? That's pretty funny.
Right? But mark my words, right? And this will be an indicator. I'm not going to say with absolute certainty that I'm correct. But mark my words. Remember the TGAs last year? It was an Xbox Game Pass ad, like literally every commercial break. Right? Every like 10 minutes.
Yeah, there was a lot of. It was kind of odd for me. I'm like, there's no mention of hardware, and I understand people are like, oh, well, that's not their business model. I get that, but they're still spending money to manufacture hardware, so it's still part of their business model. It may not be the primary focus, but they're still selling hardware. It's still an important like this is what I understand. Like this argument, like these companies spend money on hardware to manufacture these products. It matters that those products are still profitable to them. You know, and I always say this, for every new Xbox Series console sold is potentially a new Game Pass subscriber. Yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Logic.
And that number and that needle's not moving, right? So again, it just begets the question. Look, you can be insistent that you're right and that Xbox is going to stick with consoles, but what you should have a hair of a rational, thought in your body, is that, hey, if I get Game Pass numbers by selling consoles, and I'm selling consoles, but number one, my console sales aren't moving, my subscription numbers aren't moving, then wouldn't somebody in the company ask, somebody with some level of fiduciary responsibility to deliver maximum returns to investors, wouldn't that cause somebody to ask the question, hey, why are we spending money on this?
That's exactly what it's going to cause at some point. If that trend keeps, that number keeps, if we continue to see negative growth every quarter, you would imagine, for the reasons you mentioned, Logic, that someone's going to raise that question. Wait a minute, why are we doing this?
Yeah, so to me, a bellwether would be, let's see if we get through TGA 2023 without Xbox Game Pass and a Samsung TV coming up on the screen. Right?
Yeah, that ain't gonna happen.
And so if that happens, and again, those Game Pass commercial spots last year, at least the way I remember it, maybe I need to go back and look at it. What I remember is they were Game Pass. They weren't go out and buy an Xbox Series and subscribe to Game Pass. They were just Game Pass.
I remember that. That's exactly what it was. I remember.
So if the voice track this holiday season, right, at the TGAs is about, again, you being able to access Game Pass on things that are hardware that are not Microsoft, and that would seem to be an indicator of kind of, what they're thinking and where they're heading.
Yeah, and this is kind of one of the reasons why, as Ramon, you and I were talking earlier about leaving the Xbox Series X to go to PC. This is one of the reasons why I left, because as the messaging evolved, what they were telling me more or less was the console isn't our focus anymore, and you and your requirements may not be met as a consumer on the Series X or with the Series X.
There's another layer to this too, and the message that I personally got was the premium console being the Series X that you bought is not our primary focus. That's going to be the Series S in the console space. So the fact that, I was sitting here looking at my Series X and I'm like, am I ever going to get to see this thing maxed out? And the answer, in my opinion, was no. I would never see my Series X maxed out because, I know they talk about scalability and everything, and I don't pretend to be a developer and to understand that. But from what I've seen up to now, the history up to today is I would not see my Series X maxed out. And the Series S seemed to be the focus. Every time they talked about a console, they always mentioned the Series S. It was always the Series S. You rarely ever heard anything about the Series X. And so that, combined with the whole discussion we've been having and the fact that the Series S is their focus, there's more of them out there in the wild, for one. I think that it's a strong possibility, when the next generation of consoles come, I don't know, maybe they might step away from the power thing in general and release a less expensive console that will probably not be as powerful as the next PlayStation, but their marketing stick will be kind of an evolution of what it is now: inexpensive gaming with a decent amount of power, get your subscription, and you can play your games anywhere.
Yeah. It's just interesting to me when I hear people who are console gamers that who primarily game on Xbox when and I think you mentioned this, Logic, where they always mention, it's, games on multiple devices. That's great. And for me, that message never resonated because I don't play on other devices. I play on consoles. Well, I play on PC now, but I didn't care about being able to play on a TV. I cared about the console experience. I cared about, because that's where I was playing. So I think it's odd when people bring that up sometimes. I know you've talked about it, where people are like, oh, you can play on any device. And I'm like, well, if you're a console gamer, and it's fair to say, hey, it's great that they're providing that option. But for your use case as a consumer, like, does that work for you? And I don't know if people are asking that question enough. or at all, really.
Yeah, like I just don't get it. I mean, if I were running around saying that, oh, this is great, that would be credible and make sense because I play on tablets. I play on, on my phone. I have handheld, gaming devices. I play on Steam Deck. I've messed around with, playing games, trying to use things over, streaming devices. So that would make sense. But what I don't get is the people who very clearly, right, based on their badging, right, on their Twitter accounts and based on the things that they discuss, they don't play on those platforms, but then they cheerlead that, Microsoft, more games, more places. I mean, why do you care? Like, I acknowledge Mac OS for the thing that it is, but I don't go around like being super pumped up and say, yeah, Apple, delivering more Mac OS capability to Macs. Because I don't have Macs and I don't buy Macs. And so I'm not going to turn cartwheels in my front yard, for what Apple is doing on some device that I don't own or have any interest in. I'm not going to get happy about HBO Max, right, putting its streaming service on some device that I don't consume. And go, yeah, that's better for the consumer.
In fairness to logic, in fairness, like I do understand, like recognizing that, hey, the options are nice.
No, I don't. Brad, what kind of vehicle do you have? What kind of vehicle do you have?
I have an SUV.
So if they sell that SUV, if that car manufacturer announces tomorrow that they're selling that SUV in India, are you breaking open a bottle of bubbly?
No.
And saying, yeah, that's my car company. More car models to more people over the planet, right? Like I just don't understand it. When concurrently, like the problem that we're citing, very often in terms of the conversation and the discourse with Xbox is, okay, they're selling those games on other platforms and moving their business that way, but in the meantime, they're concurrently delivering lesser products of lower performity on their mainline hardware on the stack that they own. So how do you consider a benefit that they're delivering more experiences and more play? That again, the kind of natural questions that people who are involved in running businesses, are caused to ask. Somebody might say, "Hey, are you guys diluting, your overall level of effort by trying to get those games on other platforms and therefore maybe not making them the premium experience that they could be on the hardware stack that you own?" Again, citing Apple as an example, Apple puts a very small number of its products other places, but it also keeps a lot of it on their own hardware and tries to make those premium experiences. They don't dilute their efforts, and it's one of the reasons why they do it this way. Like, they don't dilute their efforts, right, by putting a ton of focus and a ton of level of effort behind getting those things on other hardware platforms.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess my point is I can understand recognizing that they're doing something that allows people to experience games, whether it's whatever game you're playing, type of game you're playing, on different devices. And saying, hey, you know what? That's a cool strategy. That's cool that they're allowing people to have those experiences on other devices. Now, what I don't understand is the doubling down of, and saying, oh my God, this is the future, this is the best, when those aren't devices or experiences that you would want or currently playing.
Yeah, I could not possibly care less about a product that I'm using being available here, there, if it doesn't directly pertain to me. Just like, Logic's example about Apple. Granted, I buy Mac, but like when B Money told me that Android, that Mac has, or Apple has apps on Android. I had no idea until he just said that. I had no idea. And it didn't invoke any kind of feeling in me other than, oh, wow, I didn't know that. I wasn't like, oh, man, are you serious? So Apple has apps on Android? Like, it's just strange to me that you would have any kind of reaction like that. Like,
and here's you just struck gold, Ramon, and here's the key data point. right? In understanding the market and what's going on. Because and Ramon, you're a gamer, so I'm not. Don't take this too far, right? You didn't know because you don't care.
Yeah.
And that is representative of the thinking of the vast majority of the market. The vast majority of the market who aren't running around on Twitter like all these yokels who are claiming all these conspiracy theories and wackadoodle, right, conclusions that they arrive at, they're not the bulk of the market. Again, the Xbox console base is like 9% of the market. The people who are on Twitter are an even smaller representative sample of that. So the big, vast bulk of those people who walked into a GameStop and got told, "Hey, you should," or Best Buy, and got told by the dude working there, "Hey, Xbox Series S would be a good viable option for you." Right? It's low cost. It allows you to do gaming at 1440p, and you can subscribe to games. Or you should buy an Xbox. Xbox Series S is a viable option. What kind of gamer are you? Do you want to be buying $70 games every month? Okay, go with this product. That's a big chunk of the market, and they don't care that those games are being deployed to mobile, to streaming devices. They don't care. They're not even aware. They're blissfully ignorant of this notion that Xbox has talked about making an Xbox USB thumb drive that you plug into the back of the TV. They don't care. And so again, this is why I don't understand, like, again, what is it that you're so happy about, that the business unit, that's their focus. I would think, having spent $500 on a console, your focus would be, right, what are they doing for me? And that's just kind of the clear representation that it's pandering and following the Pied Pipers on YouTube and Twitter that tell them that these are the things that they should be happy for and concerned about.
When the beginning of the end for me was when I the Series X, pretty much was being my first Xbox console. I mean, I had the OG for roughly about a month, and after like 3 of them crapping out on me, I just, I didn't continue on with it. So the Series X was the first Xbox I had for like longer than a month. And when I saw first party games releasing on PC before Xbox, that's when I was just like, okay, so I purchased your platform, but I'm not the priority. It's like, if I own your platform, I expect the red carpet treatment. I expect to get games from first party before anybody else because I purchased your platform. And when I saw that, certain games would actually go to PC first before the console, that's when I kind of realized, okay, they're not even thinking about this the same way that I'm thinking about it. Their priorities are completely different.
If you like the Xbox experience, again, we say this all the time. Look, if you're happy with the Xbox experience and you're fine with like a split of like 70% AA games, and if you're lucky, 30% AAA high-end summer blockbuster Michael Bay's, right, types of games, and not always knowing when those things are coming out. A lot of ado is being made about, we know what every studio is working on. Right. Well, first of all, we still don't really know what the coalition is working on, but we have this big JPEG again. It looks remarkably similar to the JPEG that they threw up on the screen after the summer 2022 showcase when they committed to the 12-month plan, and I got told, "You're saying they didn't deliver on the 12-month plan, but you need to read the small print." And then Phil Spencer, of course, came out and said, "Oh yeah, we didn't deliver on the 12-month plan." But anyway, you look at this big thing that tells you what all the studios are working on, but there's been no commitment to when those games are coming out. So again, a lot of the rhetoric is, 2024 is going to be banger. I'm like, yeah, but you're throwing darts at that big JPEG as to which of those games are actually coming out in 2024. You actually have no idea. But anyway, but our point is that if you're happy with the platform and you're happy with the distribution, then just play the games. If you see a game there that's remarkable to you and you like it, then just play that game. What we find ludicrous and ridiculous is, I really love Starfield, and so in order to rep the brand and promote and raise up Starfield, I'm going to compare Starfield to Cyberpunk.
Oh, don't do that.
Like I'm gonna put up JPEGs comparing Forza Motorsport, Forza Horizon 5 to Gran Turismo, and we're like, just stop. Like, if you like Xbox, just enjoy Xbox, but stop crossing the line to where you're running. When I just talked about how lopsided the market is, right? And the market is lopsided for reasons. People just didn't arbitrarily make those choices because they walked into GameStop and flipped a coin. Like, realize that you're gonna be called out and called into question on your credibility, and that shouldn't surprise you, given that I would assume that most people have a basic understanding of numbers and math.
I don't think most people have a basic understanding of numbers and math. Unfortunately, logic, not for what I've seen.
Another example of
People
what Logic
also
was
don't
saying
believe in
about.
science, but that's another conversation.
Oh my God! Another example of what Logic was saying, that the general gaming populace doesn't care. I'll use myself as an example during the PS3 era. Back then, before I was involved in the air quotes community and paying more attention to this stuff, I owned a PS3 only. And when the PS3 was out and it was off to a slow start, I was like, oh, okay, and then, this was just when I was noticing things like Digital Foundry, and they showed Assassin's Creed 2 and how, the color palette looked better on the 360 and everything. And I was looking at the comparisons and I'm like, oh yeah, the 360 does look better, but I mean, it's not that bad, and I played on my PS3. I had no idea that Sony, the reps, had made those arrogant statements about, get a second job so you can afford a PS3. I didn't know about that. I didn't know about the fact that it didn't sell that well because it was a bitch to program on. And on top of that, I didn't know it was a bitch to program on. All I knew was I liked every PlayStation. Like, I had every PlayStation before that. I liked their games. And then when I saw in the magazines, back then when there were magazines, when I saw in the magazines, I saw photos of Uncharted 1. And I was like, oh, hell yeah, I'm going to be ready for that when it comes out. I didn't know about any of that other stuff. I had the console that had the inferior third-party games, and I didn't know. I was none the wiser for it.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I talked about a couple of weeks ago. About all these websites, posting all this nonsense every day to get clicks. It's like,
Yep.
most people don't pay attention to this, and the kids today really don't. They don't go to IGN for their information. They don't go to GameSpot and all these other websites to find out what's going on in gaming. They know it from their friends. Everything is social. You know what I mean? So if their friends are playing Fortnite, guess what? They're playing Fortnite. If their friends are playing Roblox, guess what? That's what they're playing. You know what I mean? Like, gaming has become way more social than what it was for us. Back when we were growing up.
Yeah.
These kids aren't like, there aren't a lot of kids, at least that are, and kids that I know as far as like my kids' friends and stuff like that. They aren't tapped into gaming like that. They don't care about what's the newest release coming from XYZ studio or whatever the case is. They just, hey, a game hit the store, everybody's playing it, everybody bought it, so that's what they're on for right now. You know what I mean? Like, they aren't doing any research, they aren't looking up Metacritic, they aren't caring about what a review score is. They just want to play with their friends, man.
Yeah, that's, it's funny. B-Money, I see it all the time. Like when I coached my son's basketball team last season. I've been meaning to talk to you about that too, B. But when I coached his team last year, a lot of his friends were on his team, and I remember like hearing them talk, and they're like, "Oh, are you on Fortnite?
Yeah.
Are you playing Madden?" Like, a lot of it was Fortnite and Roblox. That was the other one.
Yeah.
And actually said still is like my son's friends will come over and they'll be like, "Hey, do you have Roblox? Can we fire up Roblox? Can we play Fortnite?" And it's but you're right, it is very social. And then you play other games like I know one of the friends came over like, "Oh, do you have Spider-Man 2?" Because they saw the Venom statue I have from the collector's edition. But yeah, I mean, it's very social, and that's a very social experience where, a lot, like I remember some of the, even some of the, my son's, teammates on his baseball team, they were asking my son, "Hey, what's your like Roblox ID number," or something like that, or I forget what it was. I want to look you up. I want to send you a friend's invite so we can play.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's very different from when we were growing up playing video games.
Yeah, because I was the only person out of all of my friends who had a PS3. Everybody else had a 360, and I could not have cared less.
Yeah, you were just you were happy just play your play, and that's the thing. Like
I was having a blast.
And that's the thing. Like Logic said, like like people what I don't understand is if you like your Xbox, like we said on the show, if you like Xbox, it checks all your requirements as a consumer. Be happy with it. That's all that matters at the end of the day.
Man.
Yeah,
exactly.
You know,
it's not a team. It's not a team.
Liking Xbox should not lead to you rolling up on Twitter and stating Game Pass is profitable and Microsoft's strategy is the new world order and Sony's on the way out. Like I don't understand how you go from like starting point A through that through line.
Because that's called crazy behavior. They're fanatics. It's a cult. I mean, seriously, and look, and I say the same thing to the PlayStation fans. If you like PlayStation, don't go tear down the Xbox for what? If you like the PlayStation 5, then have fun with it. You don't need to tear another platform down to prove that the PlayStation's the better console. That's silly.
And when a good game comes out, you don't need to say, "Yeah, you'll never see anything like this on Xbox." Like, why do you need to do that? Just enjoy the game.
Yeah, exactly.
Why should you even be thinking about Xbox if you don't play on it? Let people on Xbox play their stuff. And then conversely, it really makes me scratch my head when people say, I just can't bring myself to buy this console because the fan base sucks. Like, what does are they sitting in your living room? What does the fan base have to do?
Are they coming over for the holidays?
Yeah, exactly. Like, what do they have to do with your gaming experience?
No,
especially
yeah,
crossplay nowadays. Like, yeah, that just blows my mind, man.
You know, I always think about Nintendo Switch owners, and 130 million Nintendo Switches sold. You look at the number of units Nintendo sells in terms of video games. Zelda's at 18 million, Mario Kart's at 57 million. You know, I mean, the people on that platform, many of us on this panel too, who own Nintendo Switches, we're just having fun. We enjoy the games. And to your point, Logic, you're right. Like it doesn't make any sense to me why, if you like something like the Xbox, why you feel the need to go out there and defend the business model, say that Game Pass is the future, predict that Sony's on its way out, that they're bankrupt. I don't understand that.
That's identity wrapped up in the platform.
Yeah,
the personal identity and the platform have become intertwined, and it's not very healthy.
Oh, it's not very healthy at all. So, real quick, Ramon, I want to ask you a question before we wrap up, because last time we had you here, the what is it? I always forget. Is it SAG-AFTRA?
Oh, SAG-AFTRA.
AFTRA. Yeah. So It seems last time that we had you on, there was still a strike that seems to be resolved now. What's your perspective on that?
It's promising. It's promising. They've managed to contract and deal with the whole AI situation, and there'll be no more. Well, the air quotes, there'll be no more trying to sneak and scan people and not tell them that they have a choice, and then saying, oh yeah, your agent knows about it, and so there shouldn't be any more of that. They also have gotten higher pay raises. I don't know what the exact rate is because it is SAG-AFTRA, and I haven't joined the union down in the States yet because I'm based in Canada and I have the Canadian union. Our contract, I think we still got a couple of years left or something, a year or two. But eventually I'm going to join SAG, but it's not until I absolutely have to because it's expensive. So I think that, everything is looking positive right now. The industry is starting to ramp back up again. We're just going to have to be vigilant on our contracts because regardless of what was agreed upon, I've experienced it firsthand. Every person I know who has experienced it firsthand. These productions will try it. They will try to cheat you out of money. They will try it if you let them, regardless of what the law is. It's crazy. So, but that notwithstanding, it's positive. It's positive progress. It's not 100% perfect, but it's a step in the right direction. So I feel pretty decent about it.
Yeah, that's good to hear, man. It's good to, and I haven't really been following or keeping up with the story post agreement with SAG-AFTRA here, but I know the AI piece was a big sticking point. So it's good to hear that they've seemed to have worked that piece out, that part out. So
yeah, we're just gonna have to keep paying attention to that because we just got to really pay attention to that because they will try it.
Yep. So. All right, gentlemen, that's it for tonight's show. I want to give a big shout out to everyone in the live chat. Thank you so much for hanging out with us this evening. Please do me a favor, smash the like button if you haven't done so already. It helps out the show. Appreciate the support as always. And if you're new and you enjoyed what you heard, the conversation tonight, please subscribe, hit the bell notification so you're alerted when we go live. And I want to give a big thank you to our guest, Ramon Terrell. Ramon, always a pleasure to have you on. Thank you for joining us tonight, by the way. Appreciate it, as always. And if you want to be found, let everyone know where they can find you.
Well, first, thanks for having me. I always have a blast on the show. It's always great. So, really had a great time. Thank you, Logic, as well, and B Money. It's always a pleasure. And thanks for the chat. Thanks to the chat for, participating in everything. And if you want to find me on Twitter, because I refuse to call it that freaking letter, it's just Ramon _Terrell, and Ramon Terrell pretty much anywhere. Google it, you'll find me. And have a good night.
Thank you, Ramon. Appreciate it. Game Logic, I don't know if you want to be found, but if you do, please let everyone know where they can find you.
Yeah, you can catch me Sunday nights at 8:45 p.m. or around that time. We're often late. So 8:45 p.m. Eastern on Sunday nights over on the E2KG Network podcasting channel on YouTube for the Enough to Keep Going weekly games podcast.
Yep, and B, I know you're not on Twitter as much, but if you want to be found, let everyone know they can find you.
No, you don't have to find me. If you know, you know. I'm tired of talking to most of you goofies on Twitter because most of y'all don't got no common sense and can't really talk about games anyway. So,
I know that's
but if you know, you know. Otherwise, hopefully we'll be back next week and hopefully be talking about the Game Awards.
Yes, the Game Awards was it next Tuesday?
I think it's on the 7th.
Maybe that's
I
not
can't
next
remember.
Tuesday then.
I
I think
remember
that's Thursday. Next Thursday. Yeah. So
if the game I like doesn't win, I'm not going to be able to enjoy it anymore.
Well, you could claim bias and anyhow.
Picket signs.
Yeah, exactly. Tell say that it's a tax or that Keely's on the take. But yeah. Also, big shout out to the other panel members who couldn't make it this evening: Slubbo Backslap and Gaming Forte, who's playing Call of Duty right now.
Oh man!
Come on, Forte. Man. Come on, Forte. Yeah, he's probably getting body too. Yeah. Big shout out to Slummo and Forte. But thank you, everyone. Hey, have a great rest of the week. I may do a BRAP rant. Actually, I'm probably going to do a BRAP rant about professional wrestling, believe it or not, because I do watch professional wrestling, and there was there's a big event that happened this past weekend that I may rant about. So if you're interested in sports entertainment or professional wrestling, as I call it, give me a follow at BRAP _podcast on Twitter or X. Keep an eye on. I do a BRAP rant maybe tomorrow afternoon possibly, but I'll keep everyone posted on Twitter. Thank you, everyone. Enjoy the rest of the week. Have fun playing video games because that's what it's all about. We'll catch you next time.